welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about fictional characters. So first, I want you to think about this. What do these movie and book characters have in common? Well, if you remember, all of these characters died in their movie or in the book. So now, I want you to please make your own top 5 characters you wish hadn't died. In class, we're going to explain why these characters are important for you. Okay, now that you have your list, let's continue. Please go to student book page number 12. Read the text and decide who do you identify with the most and why. We're going to discuss this in class. Now, let's continue. I want you to please read these sentences and choose which ones sound better and why. For example, I would love to write like her, but I will never be able to. Or, I would love to write like her, but I will never be able to write like her. Well, in this pair of sentences, I would say that the first one sounds better. Now pause the video and work on the rest, please. Okay, of the next pair. I have read every book she's written. I hope she writes a new one soon. Or, I've read every book she's written. I hope she writes a new book soon. The first one would be the one that sounds better. Interestingly enough, it's actually a poem. It is a poem I learned by heart. Or, interestingly enough, it's actually a poem. It's one I learned by heart. The second one, right? We used to love reading poems. I still like to, actually. Or, we used to love reading poems. I still like to read poems, actually. The first one, right? So if you notice, we are avoiding repetition. So let's take a look at this. I want you to please read these sentences again. What is the word to replacing? And what are one and ones replacing? Let's look at the first one. I would love to write like her, but I will never be able to. I will never be able to write like her. So when you're going to replace a verb, you can use to. Let's see the next one. I've read every book she's written. I hope she writes a new one soon. I hope she writes a new book, right? So we can say one when we're replacing a noun. Now pause the video and work on the other sentences. Let's see. Interestingly enough, it's actually a poem. It is one I learned by heart. It is a poem, right? We used to love reading poems. I still like to, actually. I still like to read poems. I don't read a lot of books, but the ones I like tend to be. Ones is referring to books. If you have a plural noun, just use ones. And again, the thing is we're just avoiding repetition here. So, what happens if the infinitive phrase is negative? Look here. I probably shouldn't read trashy novels. And I try not to read trashy novels. But some of my favorite? I probably shouldn't read trashy novels. And I try not to. But some of my favorite? If you notice, I still use to, but because it's negative, I'm saying not to. And of course, I didn't mention the verb, read trashy novels. Okay, let's continue. Now, I want you to please read these sentences. Are they correct? And if not, please correct them. Pause the video while you work on this. Okay, let's see. I love to watch romantic movies, but my boyfriend prefers to not watch them. In this case, we should say not to. Out of the Twilight books, New Moon is the one I like the most. I don't always like books that are turned into movies, but I really enjoy the Harry Potter ones. Okay, did you get this right? Excellent. Let's continue. Now, let's go to workbook page number 4. Exercise A. Here, we're going to avoid repetition in these conversations. Please eliminate words or replace them using one or once, or even two to avoid repetition. Sometimes there is more than one correct answer. Let's see. Do you ever read plays? Yes, sometimes. The old Greek tragedies are the plays I like the most. How can you reduce this? Avoid repetition. Well, you can just eliminate plays and say once. The old Greek tragedies are the ones I like most. Now pause the video and work on the rest. Then we're going to check. Number 2. Did you read To Kill a Mockingbird in English class? No, our professor said we were supposed to, but then we didn't have time. Were you studying the poetry of Pablo Neruda in literature class? Have you read any of his poetry? Yeah, I loved it. I memorized this poetry to recite in my poetry class once. Do you ever read gossip magazines? Well, I prefer not to. But sometimes if I'm waiting at the doctor's office, I might look at one. My English teacher writes novels. Her last 2 were published. Yes, I know her novels. I think her more recent one is much better than her first one. Yeah, I agree. Actually, she's working on a new one now. Did you get this right? Excellent. Now for your homework, please go to workbook page 4, exercise B. Read the conversation and once again, you might need to eliminate words or replace them by one or once. Sometimes there is more than one correct answer. Let's do the beginning. I need something to read. Have you read anything good lately? Well, I've been reading a lot of crime novels lately. You can borrow one if you like. Do you want to? Or do you want to borrow one? This is another option here. Pause the video and work on the rest, please. Okay, we're going to check this in class. I will see you then. Bye-bye!